So looking at this pantry from afar, you will notice two things in contrast to the previous pantry look at. The first one is that it's noticeably smaller, but the second thing is that it's actually more visually appealing to look at. And that's largely due to the amount of containers that are used and the fact that the colors are coordinated. Not only are they coordinated with themselves, but you'll see they actually coordinate with some of the decor in the house. You'll see the throw pillows to the right there. They actually coordinate that red color. Okay, so let's analyze it from top to bottom to see what is good. So on the top shelf, you'll notice they have things that you may not need to grab very often. And that's good because since they're harder to reach, you don't want to have to be doing that all of the time. So they've got a pitcher, some paper towels, and other things in baskets they may not need to get each time. Another thing about the top shelf, if you have a basket, it's easier to pull that basket down sometimes than it is to grab something off of the back of the shelf or a small item. Then as you go down to the next shelf, you'll see they've used a wire rack to make better use of that one shelf, as well as on this shelf and the following shelves, they have a bunch of baskets that contain like items. So that way you know where everything is and you can easily pull one thing out and access all of the same type of things. And then as we get towards the bottom, you will see that they have repackaged their dry goods into airtight containers, which is great both for longevity as well as cleanliness. And then finally, you'll see some under-shelf baskets down there to make a little more use of the space. And then finally, on the bottom, you'll see they have like 5 Windexes and 5 what looks like sweet and sour mix. And some people may think that's a lot, but they've determined that these are staples for them. And so they probably bought them in bulk. They got them at a good price. And those are both shelf-stable items that will last them until they need them. So that's it for this pantry. Let's give you a last couple of tips, and then we'll be on our way to the next section. Okay, now on to the tips. Lazy Susans. Now, I don't know exactly why they're called lazy. I guess it helps you be lazy. But anyways, they can help, especially if you have a tough space to work with. They're really good in corners or on the very far edge of a shelf. They can do a lot. Also, consider a bread box. So with the bread box, especially if you have a small space, it can help your bread from getting squished, but it also will help it look nicer. And you can also stack stuff on top of it or underneath it. Don't be afraid to put pots, pans, and other things in your pantry if you need the space, or if you just either don't need them that much, or maybe it's more accessible than where you could store them elsewhere in your kitchen. Now, like I was mentioning with the top shelf's harder to reach, so is the bottom. The easiest space to reach is in the middle. So try and keep the heavy things near the middle. If you're not using them that often, then it's not as bad, but you want to try and be as ergonomic as possible when you can. And finally, make sure you do a weekly inventory, more or less, just to check and see what staples you have, what you've run out of. And then that way, when you go grocery shopping, you know what you need to get. Well, that's it for the pantry. Let's move on to the next section.